Okay. The Remarkable Schrödinger Man, Chapter 1, Attempt. 1.
I didn't see you get on.
Gordon Freeman blinked. He was on a train. The G-Man was gone. Before him in the train car, gripping a vertical railing, was a man with black-brown skin and ebony hair, dressed in a faded blue shirt and pants, not unlike a nurse's scrubs. He'd glanced with genuine interest at Gordon, but it soon faded and he returned to staring gloomily out the train window. It was several more seconds before Gordon became aware of his own body, how he was also standing up, gripping a vertical railing and wearing the very same style of cheap blue scrubs. He noticed another man on the train, hunched over in his seat, dressed likewise. Gordon looked out the window. He couldn't see farther than 30 feet. His view was blocked by a long and tall brick wall, crowned with a chain-link fence and barbed wire, which were silhouetted by a gray dawn. Above it, he spotted some reds and pinks, and even splashes of yellow enlivening the drab clouds, like the faded graffiti that ornamented the inside of his train car. But otherwise, everything seemed oppressively muted, both in sound and sight. Nothing beautiful to look at, and nothing to hear but the rumble of the train wheels. It was surprisingly difficult for Gordon to think straight. Everything was too surreal. Everything was too fast. There were too many leaps of reasoning necessary to understand his current position. He'd had no time to really think, to plan farther ahead than just the next hour, to think about anything other than his own survival. For someone like Gordon, this was like being unable to breathe. He had been submerged in danger and fright for nearly 24 hours straight. Too much information, too much to review, too much to analyze and absorb. Where could he possibly start? The train whistle howled. Trains, Gordon thought absently. This all started on a train of sorts, didn't it? He had worked at Black Mesa Research, an extensive government-funded complex nestled in the harshest desert crags of New Mexico. He was a newly hired research associate under Dr. Isaac Kleiner. It had only been 4 months since he moved onto the base. He had an apartment to himself, one that was silent, clean, and open, where he could think. And at night, when the residential areas were all dark, he could see the arms of the Milky Way splayed out across the bejeweled globe of space. A mind could stretch out there. Gordon could not recall being more relaxed and at ease than when he worked at Black Mesa. There, he didn't have to talk to anyone he didn't want to. There, he could retreat into silence and thought for as long as he wanted. There he was in constant, routine, comfortable contact with a few good, understanding friends. He had food, a comfortable bed, books, and time. And most importantly, there he finally had the materials, the technology, the human resources, and encouragement to not just theorize, not just fantasize, but make his dream reality. There he was not just studying the teleportation of visible matter. At Black Mesa, he was making it occur. He remembered the first successful experiment, flowing zero-point radiation through a 3-inch cube of super-cooled Darm stadium, which triggered a space-time undercurrent that subsumed a single iron shaving from measurable reality for 6.5 seconds before it reappeared 5 feet away, in the exact spot predicted by Freeman's calculation.
You did it, Gordon!
Dr. Kleiner was ecstatic. Dr. Vance had never been prouder. Barney Calhoun started calling him a witch and joked that they needed to burn him before it was too late. He remembered being 30 minutes late to work one day. The facility was very large and mostly underground. Transportation was by tram and metro. There had been an accident in the chemical research centers, causing tram delays. Several of them were stopped together on parallel tracks in a station, waiting for the way forward to clear up. The windows were not tinted, passengers could see each other through them, which is how Gordon, looking into the tram next to his, first locked eyes with the black-suited, skull-faced government man. The man smiled. Gordon looked away. That was it. Traffic resumed, and he arrived at Anomalous Materials.
Now arriving at Sector C test labs and control facilities.
Gordon could still hear his co-workers' voices.
Morning, Mr. Freeman. Looks like you're running late.
Hey, Mr. Freeman. Dr. Vance told me to make sure you headed down to the labs as soon as you got into your hazard suit. Go right on through, Mr. Freeman. Good luck in the barrel today.
Ah, Gordon, there you are. We've just sent the sample down to the test chamber.
Breen asked us to boost the anti-mass spectrometer to 105%.
bit of a gamble, of course, but we do need the extra resolution.
Administrator Breen is very concerned that we get a conclusive analysis of today's sample. I gather they went to some length to get it. It could be the material you have been looking for, Gordon, to teleport something a bit bigger than iron shavings, eh?
I'm afraid we'll be deviating a bit from standard analysis procedure today, Gordon.
Now, as long as we follow standard insertion procedures, everything will be fine.
The possibility of a resonance cascade scenario is extremely unlikely.
We've assured the administrator that nothing will go wrong.
Gordon, we have complete confidence in you.
The crystal touched the ray on May 16, 2009, at 8:58 a.m. For two interims of approximately 17 seconds, Gordon was in their realm, somewhere among the billion suns that glinted in the Milky Way. A realm of monsters, a realm of toothed flora and eyeless fauna, and green waters that clung to the hazard suit like saliva. There were black legs springing from the purple coral ground. They were massaging two-legged, star-faced moles that slobbered burning radioactive pus. There were pit bulls with compound eyes for heads, and semicircles of crusty, hunchbacked bugs burbling an alien tongue. After his first visit, he had found himself 2 feet above the floor, on the opposite side of the room. He had been transported. After a 3-second respite, he was in their realm again. Afterwards, he reappeared 5 feet above the chamber controls across the room. His drop nearly impaled him on a broken metal beam. As he fled, he found Dr. Ashwell dead in the chamber's airlock. His blood spattered across the floor. Dr. Vance was in the spectrometer's computer room, coughing from smoke, tending to Dr. Kleiner, whose leg was bleeding severely.
Please, get to the surface as soon as you can.
Dr. Vance had told him.
And let someone know we're stranded down here.
But then the beasts from the other world. Freeman spent 34 seconds in their realm, and they spent 24 hours in his. There were alien spiders big as garbage can lids. He remembered finding one clamped down on Bill Guthrie's head, filling him with green slime, turning his chest into a gruesome mouth.
No! 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 Get it off me! Get it out! Get it out!
Hunchbacked bipedal monsters with 4 red bulging eyes, with hands that could summon thunderbolts from the air.
Soldiers have arrived. They're coming to rescue us.
The touch of a dry, fleshy rope, the monster's lure wrapping around his neck, dragging him upwards to where undulating maws drooled, the living stalactites that grew from the ceiling.
I killed 12 scientists and not one of them fought back. This is not what I signed up for.
The constant crackle of a Geiger counter, smashing alien heads to a pulp with a crowbar, a bouquet of giant scorpion tails with swords for stingers.
The military's idea of containment is to kill everyone associated with the project.
People he knew slaughtered by both alien monsters and evil Marines, shooting another human being dead to protect himself, doing it over and over.
So, who is this guy? Freeman. They say he was at Ground Zero.
Bullets glancing off the hazard suit's armor, blood splattering on its lambda.
All I know for sure is he killed Rod and Hanks, and I'm going to send him to hell for it.
Rockets, fire, screaming lights.
Repeat, we are pulling out and commencing airstrikes. Forget about Freeman. He'll burn with the rest of them.
Sirens, 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 sirens. Gordon remembered the last words he heard from Barney Calhoun.
Can't talk now, but catch me later. I'll buy you a beer.
From Isaac Kleiner.
Why didn't Breen listen to me? Why didn't he? Why?
From Eli Vance.
Let someone know we're stranded down here.
Those were only his closest friends. They all would have died when the military began aerial bombing the facility. Just after Gordon had been trying so very hard to spread his wings, to let go of the past, to let go of all his anxieties and insecurities, and psychological waste. He had getting to know his team, the staff. He'd been talking to people, only to never hear them talk again. All because he pushed the sample into the beam. Matthew Ashwell.
We have complete confidence in you.
Killed in the barrel chamber airlock. Bill Guthrie.
Heaven save me from this paper.
transformed into an alien monster in his office. Rupert Godwin.
Top of the morning to you, Dr. Freeman.
Alice Mayswarren.
If you could get those reports to me by Monday, that'd be best.
Emmett Kyle.
You know, you ought to talk more. It's always a pleasure when you do.
All three were killed in the control room by a lightning blast. Christina Rockwell.
Don't shoot! I'm a scientist. I work for Black Mesa.
Wallace Breen.
Have a pleasant afternoon, Doctor.
Andrew Weatherby.
What if the world finds out what we were doing down here?
Their faces flashed before Gordon's eyes, one after the other, repeating their last words, and within their skin, like reflections in glass, he saw the anti-mass spectrometer and a bearded, tacit research associate in a hazard suit, pushing the crystal into the beam. He ran over Weatherby's last words once again.
What if the world finds out what we were doing down here?
What indeed? Evidently, they would call in the military. It was an understatement, of course, to say that Gordon Freeman was confused by the Marines' orders to kill everyone on the premises. And as far as he could tell, it would also be an understatement to say that the Marines themselves were just confused. Everyone was confused. No one was being told the complete truth, especially not Freeman. He had known that Black Mesa was involved in defense research for the US government, so the covert operations was not a surprise per se. In fact, it explained how the hazardous environment suit could save Gordon's life in a war zone. It was retrofitted military equipment. But it also explained how Freeman never discovered that for 2 years Black Mesa research had been successfully teleporting researchers to the aliens' world.
Get into the teleportation labs.
An unknown doctor rasped to him as he bled out on a laboratory floor.
You're not authorized to know about those, but I can see you already know a great deal more than any one man is supposed to.
Alien soldiers stored in vats, giant spiders trapped in glass tubes, bug-eyed pug dogs kept in metal kennels, and four-eyed hunchbacks nearly dissected into separate jars. Teleporters, alien weapons, another world, their world.
You have no idea how popular you are over here in the Lambda complex,
Dr. Tess told him, while Gordon tried to patch up the old woman's bloodied arms.
Your little space-time sublimation technique changed everything. It was going to reduce our costs by 85%.
This was what Gordon's research had been for, all without his knowledge. To improve travel between worlds, to aid neckbeards and their meddling with foreign ecosystems, Black Mesa trafficking in samples and advances stolen from other worlds. That was why there was so much security. That was why their safety courses were so intensive. That was why the specialized hazard suit issued to Gordon was retrofitted experimental military armor, because behind the highest security levels, Black Mesa was recklessly exploring ecosystems utterly incompatible, utterly lethal to Earth's.
Quite a few handsome specimens were collected from the border world and brought back this way, before the survey members started being collected themselves, that is. Anyway, we suspect there is an immense portal over there, created by the intense concentration of a single powerful being. You will know it when you see it. I hate to say this, Gordon, but you must kill it.
Yeah, you'd better kill it.
Of course, you owe us nothing, Mr. Freeman, but you've come this far. You know as much about these creatures as anyone.
Enough to know that if you don't wipe it out, there won't be much for you to come home to.
Gordon's eyes were bitter.
There all isn't, friend.
In the present, on the train, Gordon's knuckles were white as they nearly tore out his hair. The other two passengers remained silent, though they gave him some odd looks. Freeman didn't notice. No matter where, no matter what, I destroy everything. No matter my intention, I destroy everything and everyone. I destroy. Tears were welling up in fat globules and rolling down his cheek, staining his clothes. Freeman was miserable. Scientists had teleported him to the other world via a terrifying, crackling portal ripped out of the thin air. Gordon didn't say a word as he looked into it. He said almost nothing to these people he didn't know, the people he was saving. No, he was running away from them, to a new quietude, a new planet, however hostile and horrible it was. He was going where he didn't have to talk to anyone, where there was no one he knew, no one to bother him, no one to be hurt by him, no one to care about, no one to die. The Lambda science team said they had a plan to get him back. Gordon resented these lies. The military didn't surrender in these situations. They retreated and then bombed. Airstrikes were going to decimate the facility from the face of the earth, and Gordon could see it in these scientists' faces. They knew they were going to die. They knew it probably far better than him. They were only sending Gordon over to protect the rest of the planet. When the bomb smoke cleared, the portal would still be there unless Gordon succeeded. But either way, he was not coming back. Good, he thought. As far as he could tell, Earth was a lot better off without him around. Gordon left into the portal. Everything went neon green and black, and then green again. Their world. Spires that looked like dinosaur spikes on floating meteors of porous concrete lost in a disorienting globe of constellations robed in a nebula of orange and pink and green and deep, deep blue. Floating platforms made of coral and rock, muscular plants that teleported him, daggered arms of flesh trying to stab him, scavenging weapons and supplies off the corpses of human explorers, their bodies littered around on the gnarled, levitating plateaus, or inside the bellies of hollow, fluid-filled boulders. Their faces were unrecognizable, but their specialized hazard suits, the same kind Gordon wore, were very recognizable. Each one was a haunting premonition of what would happen to Freeman. Things like that require sanity as a toll. And then began the baleful groans, distant as a dying echo, yet close as the whispers of a lover, sending chills up Freeman's spine, making him turn left and right to find it, but he soon realized that it was speaking directly to his mind. It was the voice of the being that held the portal open by sheer alien will, and it whispered over and over, nearly unintelligible.
Their slaves we are, their slaves we are. Brass, I am the brass. You are man, these not man, for
The whispering being was a stone-gray, half-dissolved fetus, floating in a cavernous womb of rock.
I am the best.
Its head opened like a flower to reveal a spherical core of glimmering energy and tissue, sensitive to conventional weaponry.
For you he reigns.
Indeed, when the being was dead, the G-Man was waiting.
Gordon Freeman in the flesh. Or rather, in the hazard suit. I took the liberty of relieving you of your weapons. Most of them were government property. As for the suit, I think you've earned it. The border world, then, is in our control for the time being. Thanks to you. Quite a nasty piece of work you managed over there. I am impressed. That's why I'm here, Mr. Freeman. I have recommended your services to my employers. And they have authorized me to offer you a job. They agree with me that you have limitless potential. You've proved yourself a decisive man, and so I don't expect you'll have any trouble deciding what to do. If you're interested, just step into the portal, and I will take that as a yes. Otherwise, well, I can offer you a battle you have no chance of winning. Rather an anticlimax after what you've just survived. Time to choose.
There Freeman stood, with the dark-suited government man, on a brink of time and space. Another portal had opened up before him, with the G-Man gesturing subtly towards him. Freeman could see galaxies dancing in the portal. Yes, he could see the stars, the beautiful, cold, lonely, unconcerned stars, glowing out in the deepest fathoms of space. If you got too close to one, you got burned alive. But at a safe distance, they provided light and warmth. A safe, unreachable distance. The G-Man stared expectantly. "Do I get dental?" Gordon suddenly replied. And before the G-Man could answer, Freeman had stepped through. The sky disappeared beneath a high vaulted ceiling as the train entered its station. New shadows fell over the car. Its internal lights flickered on, emphasizing Gordon's reflection in the window pane. Subject, Gordon Freeman. Male, age 27. PhD, MIT, Theoretical Physics. Research Associate, Anomalous Materials Laboratory, Black Mesa Research Facility, New Mexico. Status, hired and deployed. He grew up in Seattle, Washington. He had no dependents, no girlfriend. He was the only child of two highly capable parents raised on the bleached Seattle coast. He had a gaunt face, with short black-brown hair on his head and an even carpet, and on his face a stern Van Dyke beard. His eyes revealed nothing because they sought to reveal everything. As a result, his face was prematurely aged from his tendency to constantly scowl in concentration and focus. Almost as if to temper this off-putting severity, he wore thick-rimmed prescription lenses, the frame wrapping around the back of his ear, but they were of no avail against his naturally threatening appearance. He stood a little more than 6 feet tall. Gordon Freeman, scourge of the military, tamer of worlds, one-man army, now employed by the G-Man, now back on Earth, apparently to perform a job which would, quote, become apparent as he moved forward naturally, and which required his newly discovered skill set as a superhuman war machine. Not that he thought of himself as a particularly good war machine. As far as Gordon was concerned, without his, quote, hazardous environment suit, unquote, he bled as easily as anyone else. But the G-Man was not an idiot, and this was the agreement. To be inserted into space-time anywhere in the universe and removed as needed. It would be clear to him on each occasion what he was expected to do. The train finally squealed to a halt.
Well,
sighed the black man as he stepped off onto the platform.
End of the line.
The other man stood up and followed him out. But Gordon hesitated. He didn't know if he wanted to get off yet. The train seemed safe enough, and he still needed to think. But then he heard a familiar voice echoing through the train station. Out of curiosity, Gordon stepped onto the platform. Discarded cans and Chinese takeout boxes littered the tiled floor. The train station was unsettlingly empty. Perhaps only 15 total passengers exited from various cars and slowly shambled past Gordon. and above them, retrofitted into the wall, was a giant rectangular monitor, displaying the white-bearded, harsh-strung, but trustworthy face of Gordon's old boss, Dr. Wallace Breen, Black Mesa administrator.
Welcome.
He said, with comfortable charisma.
Welcome to City 17. You have chosen, or been chosen, to relocate to one of our finest remaining urban centers.
Gordon was transfixed and utterly bewildered by this. It was like being in a hyper-real dream. It did not help when he was temporarily blinded by an obnoxious flash of light. He stumbled back from it, almost colliding with a gloomy woman walking behind him. As his vision cleared, he saw a hovering drone, shaped like a mechanical eyeball, 1.5 feet wide. It was analyzing Gordon and taking photographs. There were several other drones drifting like fat mosquitoes around the other shambling citizens, who did their best to ignore them.
I thought so much of City 17,
continued Dr. Breen,
that I elected to establish my administration here, in the citadel so thoughtfully provided by our benefactors. I've been proud to call City 17 my home. And so, whether you are here to stay or passing through on your way to parts unknown, welcome to City 17. It's safer here.
Everything was almost unbearably surreal for Gordon. For as far as his mind could be concerned, he had last seen Breen some 48 hours ago, passing by him in the hallways in Black Mesa, that energetic, ambitious, kindly fellow in his mid-30s. Now he looked about 50, with graying hair and wearied eyes, but that same comforting expression and twinkling eyes. His mind couldn't process it. He knew it was Breen, but it was like viewing Breen in a movie. Gordon could not ascertain any meaningful relationship with him anymore. He was stirred from his rigorous reverie by a loud commotion to his left, and a heavily distorted robotic voice saying, Gordon turned with ever-renewed surprise towards the source. He saw the exit from the station was behind an iron bar fence passable by a turnstile door. Citizens were making their way, one at a time, through to the other side, but one of them, a shorter, balding man, was held up by a masked and armored guard who was confiscating his suitcase. Please, the citizen said. It's all I have left. The guard shoved him roughly to the ground. The guard snarled. It was as tall as Freeman, and its full-body uniform sported what looked like several layers of Kevlar armor. Its voice sounded like it was passed through 2 consecutive walkie-talkies. This was made believable by its full-head helmet, bone-white and bug-like, with 2 insectoid eyes as visors, and a sinister gas mask for the mouth. Guns and equipment were strapped around its waist and back, and it held a menacing black rod in its hand, sparks occasionally flying from its tip. The citizen stumbled back to his feet. All right, I'm moving. Jeez. There were guards everywhere now that Gordon looked. They stood in shadowed corners, or paced slowly on the fringes of a herd like a stealthy cattle driver. They all hosted the same armor and the same equipment. As Gordon pushed through the turnstile himself, he saw a woman clinging to the fence, calling out with restrained hysterics.
Were you the only ones on that train?
Gordon's relative generosity of attention encouraged her, and she turned to him, tears in her eyes.
Overwatch stopped our train in the woods and took my husband for questioning. They said he'd be on the next train. I'm not sure when that was. They're being nice, though, letting me wait for him.
Gordon stared at her blankly. He did not know what to say. The woman was disconcerted at this tall, silent man who stared through her like a train window. Too many options were flooding his mind, what to say, what to do, and he was running out of time. She was looking nervous. And so many unpleasant outcomes. But suddenly, a thought occurred to him that filled him with nearly euphoric elation. I'm not really here, he thought strangely. I'm leaving at any time. I don't have to care so much anymore. I don't have to destroy myself. I'm a star, a distant star. There can be 1,000 years between myself and the people I warm. Already he was walking abruptly away from the poor woman. He felt a weight lifting at his realization. He was finally alone. He could, without attachment, without consequence, view the whole world as a scientist, as a detective, never involved more than he wanted to be, figuring things out, saving lives without loving them. Yes, this was right. This was what he had always wanted to be. Guards are the, quote, Overwatch, he thought to himself, almost giddy with the joy of understanding and solving. They're alien. The masks are life support. They aren't Zen aliens because those didn't need life support. So maybe they were in the same star system and the ruckus caught their attention. So did killing the alien beast not solve anything? Did the portal remain open anyway? And did they conquer the Earth? Because people look so hopeless. They'd be making more of an effort to escape, but there's nowhere to escape to. Maybe a resistance movement, but... Gordon almost walked into a table and a man sitting at it. The table looked like it had never been cleaned. It was possible its single occupant had never had either. The occupant whispered to Gordon frantically.
Don't drink the water. They put something in it to make you forget.
His eye twitched and he looked hurriedly around himself.
I don't even remember how I got here.
Freeman said nothing and walked away. He did not want to talk. He wanted to think. He needed to think and not do anything more for a while. But now he was standing before a glaring monitor of train departure and arrival times with an arrival security queue to his right. A man was muttering to himself as he paced back and forth beneath the arrival-departure screens.
And the ones that do arrive, they never leave. You never see them go. They're always full. No one ever gets on, but they're always departing, but they never arrive.
Gordon Freeman sat down at a table in the corner and put his head in his hands, trying to block out the world just for a little bit. It would take some time for him to fully adjust to his secret ghostliness and truly not care anymore. The Overwatch contracted out to the G-Man, who opened the portal for them to come through by giving us the crystal and pushing us to examine it in the anti-mass spectrometer. The G-Man and the administrator, Dr. Breen, pushed us to it. And now Dr. Breen is ruling this alien dystopia. So Dr. Breen was in on it. He and the Overwatch made a mutual deal with the G-Man. But the G-Man has his own agenda, because he let me get through to Zen to kill the being and let the portal close. Somehow the Overwatch got it open again and apparently took the Earth, but the G-Man has its own plans, and I'm his trump card.
Dr. Breen again?
Said a nearby voice.
I was hoping I'd seen the last of him in City 14. I wouldn't say that too loud.
Warned another voice.
This is his base of operations.
Shouted an Overwatch guard as it stepped into the room with 3 cohorts.
No loitering. You go through security to your assigned relocation room. Now move it.
The pacing man suddenly lost it.
Oh God. Oh God. Where's my wife? Where is my wife?
He screamed at the guards before one jabbed him in the gut with an electrified rod and collapsed in a shivering heap. A nearby woman screamed and people began hurrying to the chain link security queue.
If you'll just hold on a moment.
Dr. Hamish gunned down with a high-powered machine gun. It happened in a flash before Gordon's eyes, a flashback. But then he was back in the train station, one hand gripping the table until his knuckles were bright red and white, the other reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Kill them, he thought, his inner voice nearly drowned out by his unbearably furious heartbeat. No time for questions. You have to kill them, or they'll kill you. This was a knee-jerk reaction, Gordon knew, rationally, that he needed to stand up and walk with the other civilians. But instinctively, emotionally, well, now he was left breathing too quickly, his heart threatening to crack his ribs. It took him rather longer than the others to get to his feet. He could tell this did not go unnoticed by the Overwatch, even as they were busy dragging their stunned victim away. In line, Gordon watched as one by one the blue-clothed citizens stepped from the front of the queue into an open space, were patted down by several Overwatch guards, photographed by a floating drone, and apparently analyzed by a well-mounted camera on a robotic arm. Each citizen's scrub tag was scanned, and they were directed briskly through one of 2 exits, forward or to the left. As one man walked through the left exit, the chain link gates before and behind him shut automatically, trapping him in the atrium. An obnoxious buzzer sounded, and another robotic camera mounted to the fence came alive and focused intently on the man's frightened face. Then an Overwatch officer entered the atrium through a thick metal door in the wall. It motioned for the citizen to follow it inside.
What? But wait a minute. Where are you?
The officer repeated, its radio voice peaked with the shriek of a microphone.
But me?
In he went, and the door slammed shut. Next human, please. Gordon was trying to control his breathing, bring his heart rate down. They may not know what to do with me, he thought. I don't know if the G-Man forged documents for me or something, but they likely won't. And that means they'll fall back on standard procedure. They'll take me to the back room if there's a problem. They'll be doing things there and they'll need equipment for it. Distractions I can use. It was Gordon's turn. He was called forward. 2 Overwatch guards felt roughly around his whole body. They had no regard for privacy or sensitivity, making Freeman cringe a moment. Either they did not understand the details of human anatomy, or more likely, they did not care. One swept a scanner over Gordon's scrub tab. It made a metallic beep. The guard said, gesturing towards the left exit with his baton. Gordon stepped through the atrium. The door slammed shut. The buzzer rang out. Flashes emitted around him as several pictures were taken by the robot cameras. Growled an officer on the other side of the cage. Gordon stood more or less patiently. He willed that his eyes be cold and defensive, matching the insectoid stare of the officer's mask. His fingers twitched at his sides. His heart was drumming a deep belly beat that almost interfered with his hearing. Gordon turned and walked through the open door after the officer. He was now in a long, ugly hallway, lined with metal doors and a harsh cement floor. Plastered walls with peeling paint and dried mold lacing the ceiling corners. It was almost toxically musty as a result, with stinging traces of salt and iron in the air. Each door had an eye slot and one was open. Through it, Gordon could hear a man's voice, the same man he saw taken earlier.
This must be a mistake,
he was saying.
I submitted a standard relocation coupon, just like everyone else.
But someone unseen shut the eye slot, cutting off the sound. Meanwhile, Gordon's guard had knocked on a door further down the hall. It opened and the guard gestured roughly for Gordon to enter. Inside was a large metal desk with several accordion binders and an electric lamp. There were 2 lonely filing cabinets settled against the walls, and to the far end, a wide, bulky computer system and control panel hosting black wires and blue, number-filled displays. And in the room's center, beneath a harsh incandescent light, was a red-padded dental chair. Black grits and crimson blotches stained the tiled floor around it.
"Do you need help with this one?"
said the guard who had opened the door.
"No, I'm good,"
replied the other. The door slammed, and Gordon was alone with just one guard. Gordon saw the bucket as his best option. The guard snarled as he passed by Gordon to the computer setup. I bet they can't breathe without those masks, Gordon thought. The guard, with unbelievable negligence, was facing away from Gordon and working on the computer.
"I'm gonna need me some privacy for this,"
it said, and several lights turned off on the computer, surveillance cameras. It continued, turning around and casually taking off the counterfeit Overwatch mask.
"About that beer I owed you."
He could not finish the sentence because he was smacked full in his exposed face with a tin bucket, and there was Gordon leaping onto the desk with the small metal chair, ready to beat the Overwatch guard to a pulp, when he saw the revealed face.
"It's me, Gordon,"
shouted the fake Overwatch guard.
"Barney from Black Mesa. For the love of Mike, don't hit me with that thing."
Gordon did not put the chair down, but stood stock still on the desk, trying to process this turn of events. It was Barney Calhoun. Gordon Freeman collapsed into a red dental chair, trying to keep his breathing under control. Barney stood beside him, wiping a drool of blood from his bruised nose and looking incredibly concerned.
"Geez, Gordon, I'm sorry to scare you like that, but I had to put on a show for the cameras. I've been working undercover with Overwatch Civil Protection. The last time we talked, I promised a beer. You know, you were pretty uptight then, so I see not much has changed."
Gordon said, "Just been a bit of a rough day." Barney couldn't help but laugh at that.
It's been a bit of a rough 16 years.
Barney, even without the mask, wasn't immediately recognizable to Gordon, having aged as much as Dr. Breen, 16 years. Although still the same short, stocky build, he looked more tired and hardened than bouncy and energetic. Still the same dark brown wolfish hair, but it was finally beginning to thin, and shades of gray were emerging in his locks. And his face, handsome if square, had grown far more leathery and beaten.
"So I guess you're not dead then,"
Barney said, grinning again, quite uncontrollably, his voice laced with joking jollity.
"'Cause I heard that you jumped into an alien portal to kill all the bad guys and were never seen again. That's normally a ride off into the sunset moment, isn't it? Bad form to return all of a sudden. That's Jesus's thing. Makes you look pretentious."
"I guess so," Gordon said, affording a false smile, while in his mind over and over, "He's not dead. My friend isn't dead. I thought they all were." Meanwhile, Barney knew Gordon well enough to accept his terse, if only preliminary, answer. For Gordon, a smile, especially a false one, was as good as a paragraph.
"All right. Listen, you've got some major explaining to do, but I can't take too long right now or Civil Protection will get suspicious.
I'm way behind on my beating quota."
I radioed Dr. Kleiner through the control unit while putting out the cameras. I know he'll want to see you, but then you're going to need to hightail it out of here to his lab.
A feed appeared on the control monitors. Video of a sort of warehouse laboratory. A somewhat shrill but well-enunciating voice came from off-screen.
Yes, Barney, what is it? It had better be good. I'm in the middle of a critical test.
Barney stood up before the monitor.
Yeah. Sorry, Doc, but look who's here.
An older, bony, and mostly bald man in a dirty white lab coat and gray tie stepped in front of the feed, staring back at Gordon through thick black glasses. He watched the man's eyes widen and his mouth spread into an almost comical smile. Gordon knew the voice, face, and excited expression quite well, and he couldn't help but smile again himself.
Great Scott! Dr. Gordon Freeman! Why, I expected more warning.
Yeah, you and me both, Doc.
Barney answered.
I caught this joker about to board the express train to Nova Prospect.
Well, good grief, Gordon. You will certainly have much to tell us. Good heavens. Gordon, are you all right?
Gordon was in a cold sweat. His hands were starting to shake. He could hardly sit up straight in the chair. They don't know. They don't know what I've become. I want to hug them, but I can't. I'll burn them.
Barney!
Kleiner continued, greatly concerned.
What do you intend to do exactly? He would be safest here at my lab.
I'm thinking.
Barney said, biting his lip, glancing at a separate feed on the monitor.
Alex is around here, somewhere.
Kleiner suggested.
I'm sure she would have an idea of how to get him here safely. Or at least get him here.
Yeah. Well, as long as he stays away from checkpoints, we should be okay.
You lost the HEV suit, though.
Kleiner noted toward Gordon worriedly.
Are you injured at all? Barney, is he in any condition to travel?
Gordon abruptly stood up from the chair, sucking in a breath. I'll be fine. Barney interrupted.
Listen, I gotta go, Doc.
I'm getting word from Erickson that the heads are surprise inspecting right now.
Oh, very well. But, Gordon...
Kleiner smiled broadly.
Good to see you.
The feed switched off. Barney began hiding and erasing certain features from the monitors while talking.
Okay, Gordon.
You're gonna have to make your way to Dr. Kleiner's lab yourself. It's just around the... Well, it's pretty complicated, actually.
There was a loud, strong knocking at the door, and Gordon could hear the muffled rasp of Overwatch voices from behind it.
That's what I was afraid of.
Barney snapped. He ran to one of his filing cabinets and shoved it out of the way. Behind it was a door, bolted shut with a large black spider-like device fixed to the wall. Too quick for Gordon to see, Barney unlocked it and pushed the door wide open, revealing a spacious storage closet. Gordon hurried inside.
All right, just pile some stuff until you can reach the window up there. And just head for the plaza outside the train station. You can't miss it. I'll try to meet up with you there to take you to Kleiner's.
The door shut. Gordon could still hear the Overwatch soldiers banging on the door. Did they force their way in? I can hear their radios. He didn't stay longer to check. He'd had his respite. He was in danger mode again. He shut out everything else before he went insane. So many emotions, so many whirling thoughts and things going wrong. But nothing mattered right now. Nothing could matter right now, except the next objective. He could reevaluate when he got there, but right now... He scrambled up a ladder onto a second-story shelf and heaved several wooden boxes toward a high-sitting window. No time to look for weapons. He couldn't carry one with him anyway. He heard a commotion from the other room. Heart pounding again, he threw open the window and climbed out. He was in a small yard enclosed by high stone walls. It was an 8-foot drop to the ground. Gordon aimed for a crate. He tumbled as best as he could, but the bruises on his palms smarted. The crate was half rotten and had broken under his weight. He wondered if the Overwatch heard him, and then he stopped wondering because he didn't have time to wonder. He flew open the only available door in the yard and found himself in a storage basement lit by dim lights illuminating a metal staircase. It led up to a door that opened into an empty corridor back inside the train station. Just as Freeman pulled the basement door closed, an Overwatch guard rounded the corner at the end of the hallway, halting at the sight of Gordon. The guard radioed something unintelligible. Gordon eyed the corridor for tools, some cans, plastic wrapper, but right next to the guard he noticed an overflowing trash can, likely never changed in 16 years. There had to be something in there he could use too. The guard used the tip of its baton to knock a can out of the dumpster and onto the floor. It said. Gordon remained frozen as his brain loaded a response. He finally moved forward, squatted down, picked up the can, and put it back in the trash. He heard a rhythmic measure emit from the guard. Gordon realized it was laughter. It said. As Gordon passed him by, he thought, all right, maybe these guards aren't alien. Maybe they're all or mostly human volunteers. Thugs on a power trip? He wandered through empty, spacious corridors. Somehow it was hard for Gordon to associate them with their function as a train station. because of how empty and unused it was. Occasionally, a fellow citizen shuffled past him, sometimes a group or trickle, but no one talked, joked, or showed emotion. They could feel the insect visors staring at their necks, the batons occasionally sparking as a reminder. The biggest group of citizens that Gordon saw was a queue of 10 people in the ticket lobby. They were receiving new sets of scrubs from an automated dispenser. On another screen looming above them was Dr. Breen's forthcoming face displayed in high definition.
Allow me to address the anxieties underlying your concerns,
he was saying,
rather than try to answer every possible question you might have left unvoiced. First, let us consider the fact that for the first time ever, as a species, immortality is in our reach. This simple fact has far-reaching implications. It requires radical rethinking and revision of our genetic imperatives. It also requires planning and forethought that run in direct opposition to our neural presets.
Gordon was filing Breen's words away. It registered as too much for him to ponder on now. Instead, he continued through the room, his eyes darting to keep track of the guards. They seemed uninterested in him, but Gordon was not comforted. Eventually, he saw a citizen walking toward a set of double doors and pushing them open. Gordon followed her outside into the plaza and halted. A monolith rose from behind the cityscape, erected into the clouds like a titan sword piercing the sky to bring down a flood. It was a gray and cobalt shaft, mechanical and threatening as the barrel of a military shotgun. It was a metal mountain impaled into the city center, hazy in the distance, the morning sun gleaming to its right. It had 100 black cables, barely visible silhouettes, curling down from the tower's base like squid tentacles into the city below.
I find it helpful at times like these to remind myself that our true enemy is instinct.
Breen continued from another screen. This one was mounted to an old city monument, an Egyptian-style monolith, in the center of the spacious plaza. Thick telephone cables ran from the screen to the surrounding buildings, mimicking the tentacles of the tower behind it.
Instinct was our mother when we were an infant species. Instinct coddled us and kept us safe in those hardscrabble years when we hardened our sticks and cooked our first meals above a meager fire and started at the shadows that leapt upon the cavern's walls.
The plaza had once been a roundabout in the city streets, but all was restricted and blocked off by harsh cobalt gates, jammed between the hollow shells of shops and apartments. The gate's openings were protected by a watery blue energy field through which citizens, silent and downturned, would enter and exit, making the scene like a chamber in an unusually empty ant farm.
But inseparable from instinct is its dark twin, superstition. Instinct is inextricably bound to unreasoning impulses, and today we clearly see its true nature.
Gordon slowly walked forwards. His mind had been swallowed by the tower. All else seemed meager detail. He could not understand how something so big and yet so artificial could withstand its own weight. He had not seen anything so tremendous, even on Zen. Nothing so purely imposing.
Instinct has just become aware of its irrelevance. And like a cornered beast, it will not go down without a bloody fight.
Gordon heard from across the plaza a guard's radio gargle. It broke the spell of the edifice on Gordon, jerking him back into the danger zone. What was he doing? That's right, he was looking for Barney, or waiting for Barney.
He didn't have a plan, though. He wasn't expecting it. Barney is not reliable right now. He's trying to salvage his cover. I can't wait too long. Everyone's moving, and military governments do not like loitering.
The Overwatch patrolling the edges of the plaza were all beginning to look in Freeman's general direction.
Not good. Very bad.
Freeman began walking at a casual pace to his right, the only path he could see without an energy gate. It was a wide alley where the wind sweeps all the discarded papers and cardboard boxes of the city. There were only two other citizens passing through this way, both a good distance ahead of him. Freeman suddenly noticed it was rather chilly in the shade of the buildings. There was only a slight breeze, but the morning wind gave him goosebumps under his thin scrubs. He rubbed his arms for some warmth. As he did so, he passed by an apartment that Overwatch were apparently searching. One guard stood watch at the door, inscrutable behind its gas mask. Gordon glimpsed other soldiers behind it in the apartment lobby, but they weren't tossing the place. No, they were rounding people up. There were several people in scrubs, facing the far wall of the lobby with their hands on their heads. The guard's head turned to follow Gordon as he passed by. Kill him, Freeman thought. Kill all the guards. Save those people. His mind's eye saw a gunshot hitting Marine Kevlar. He saw machine gun fire tear a Marine's face apart. One of the security guards was hysterical because his friend was eaten by... He shook it off as best as he could. He had no HEV suit. He bled easily. Around the corner, at the end of the street, there was another security gate with a black, lightweight tank parked in front of it, and 2 guards watching the civilians pass through. Behind the gate, a 2-story tall, 3-legged alien behemoth tramped by a daddy longlegs in a green and blue exoskeleton. It had a minigun for proboscis, and its footfalls rattled the nearby window glass. All right, alien pack animals. All right. The guards turned and looked towards Freeman, who turned casually as he could into a narrow alley. There, in the crack between buildings, there was some pathetic ivy and untrimmed grass making a go of it. Gordon passed through quickly to the next street. To his left, he could see the giant armored bug lumbering further into the city. There was another security gate and armored tank. A citizen was up against the wall, his body shaking. Another was on the ground. One guard turned and looked towards Freeman, who promptly walked the other way down the street. As he did, he realized a floating camera drone was following him, occasionally flashing pictures of the back of his head. The narrow street ended in a small enclosed block of apartment buildings. The cement sidewalk was strewn with autumn leaves, and the city trees were morbidly bare. Wild grasses sprung up sparingly in the confined yards, amongst the rusted metal and decrepit plastic of an abandoned playground. 2 citizens stood on their apartment's porch, looking down the street at a pair of Overwatch officers, guarding another raid on a residence. One of the citizens was saying,
"This is how it always starts. First the building, then the whole block."
The other,
"But they have no reason to come to our place." "Don't worry, they'll find one."
They both turned towards the approaching Gordon. They both shook their heads at him in dismissal, and one thumbed down the street to the left of the Overwatch, at an open apartment building door. Gordon wasn't sure what they thought he wanted, and he considered asking, but he realized they would have spoken already if they were comfortable with it. There was a drone following him, after all. The drone flashed another picture of Gordon's back, so he began a brisk walk down the sidewalk, straight towards the door, and thus straight near the guards. If he turned around and went the other way, they'd be suspicious, so now he was a citizen. A regular citizen. He was just returning to his innocent residence. Nothing new. He passed a swing set, monkey bars, a play merry-go-round, a slide.
How stark, seeing it so empty. Kids can't play outside anymore.
The drone did not follow him into the open apartment building. The hallway walls were cheap, old, thin, and painted salmon. They were attacked by slews of rotting posters, rendered indecipherable by time. Soon he found himself in a tiny atrium furnished with a cardboard box, a set of double doors, a wood staircase, and a square spiral upwards, and an elevator bolted with a spider lock. None of it was terribly important to Freeman. It was all just detail. But he heard sounds of distress. He went up the stairs. On the second floor, halfway down the hallway, a small team of Overwatch soldiers were knocking roughly on a door. A civilian was poking her head out from another room to watch. Suddenly, one of the guards kicked the door open and the team flooded in. There were sounds of screaming and violence. And one guard remained outside, standing in the hallway, staring Freeman and the other citizen down. Then slowly, it followed its comrades in, while the curious woman went back into her apartment with a mouse to his head. Freeman thought about continuing up the stairs, but saw another guard on the floor above him and thought better of it. Instead, he sought refuge with the woman in her apartment. She had left her door unlocked, and Gordon simply walked in to no one's apparent objection. The apartment had 4 rooms, a kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. It counted over 14 people inside. 3 women, all over 30, were bundled together in sleeping bags on the kitchen floor. 2 40-year-old men sat at a wooden dining table. A young man, possibly 20, was squatting against the wall. A 50-year-old woman was washing scrubs in a clotted sink. Another 5 citizens were in the living room. A young man and woman stood by the windows, the same woman looking outside earlier. And 3 men were lounging on the couch, 2 elderly and one probably a little over 17. They were watching a makeshift television set, currently broadcasting Dr. Brain's white-bearded face and charismatic voice. Gordon could glimpse 2 more citizens in the bedroom, a 30-year-old man comforting a sobbing woman of the same age. No children.
Tutto si risolverà.
The only greeting he received was,
"Oh, I thought you were a cop."
Otherwise, no one was speaking. They all could easily hear muffled shouts from the neighboring apartment. The tension in the rooms was strung as tight as a tripwire. Brain was saying from the television.
For giving us respite from this overpowering force. They have thrown a switch and exorcised our demons in a single stroke. They have given us the strength we never could have summoned to overcome this compulsion. They have given us purpose. They have turned our eyes toward the stars.
Gordon blinked at this. No children. One of the citizens by the window was saying,
Look at them down there.
You see? I told you they'd be coming for us next.
Just this once, I hope you're wrong.
Let me assure you that the suppressing field will be shut off on the day that we have mastered ourselves, the day we can prove we no longer need it. And that day of transformation, I have it on good authority, is
Gordon's eyebrows scrunched together and his eyes shut. No children anywhere. A couple crying in the bedroom. No one younger than 16. Suppression field. From the window, he saw a tank car had pulled up onto the curb below. Overwatch were approaching the building's doors. The man and woman both swore and shut the blind.
Special news bulletin.
Said a female voice from the television.
Special news bulletin. Man wanted by civil protection for the murder of 3 innocent citizens. He is very dangerous. Privilege increases are offered for his live capture.
They're
He
definitely
was
coming
last
in
seen
here.
in the borough of
It was
North
just a
5th
matter
and
of
2nd
time.
South.
I told
Please
you, there
report
goes the
any
rest of the
information
neighborhood.
to-
Gordon left the room before anyone could look twice at him. It was his own face posted on the television, his eyes screwed tight against the flash of a photo drone.
Cosa faremo, per
He was met in the
favore?
hallway by one of the guards from the raided apartment. Freeman, as casually as he could, turned around and started up the staircase again. The staircase guard had left. The only one in sight was behind Freeman, following him at a distance. From outside, a bass siren began blaring at regular intervals.
Hey, you!
Called a human voice.
Hey, in here!
Gordon was at the 3rd floor and a fellow citizen was waving him over to his apartment. Gordon quickly followed, hearing the guard's footfalls on the stairs below.
Civil protection is after you, friend. Saw you on the news. Head for the roof. There are pathways that can link you with the Underground Railroad.
The chatter of Overwatch radios from terrifyingly close to the man shut the door and used a makeshift bolt to lock it.
Run as fast but as quietly as you can. There's a friend up ahead who can help you out. A young woman with a red streak in her hair. Follow the wooden ramps to the next building over.
Something nearly broke the door down behind them. The man cursed under his breath and said,
Run! Get yourself out of this city, friend.
The door split and blue lightning flared for a few seconds. There was a hole in the door now. Freeman was seeing red and green lightning. He was in the barrel chamber. His hand wrapped around something. He assumed a crowbar. He was going to slam it into the head of a monster to defend Clara Erickson from attack.
Run! Don't help me! Run!
Freeman suddenly realized he had grabbed a large slice of wood and was brandishing it like a knife. The Overwatch almost to the door. Freeman ran. There were other citizens in the apartment. They had weapons, and a few even had guns. No, they aren't going to die just for one guy. A guy they don't know. There was violence and screaming behind him. There was another door. He burst through and was in a hallway. He saw no Overwatch to the right or left. But someone was standing beside him with a baseball bat.
Nous avons déjà choisi, ami.
The man said.
Vive la résistance, eh?
He finished with a sardonic laugh and gestured roughly down the right hallway. Gordon was running again, running for a staircase, but Overwatch were marching up from the lower floors and blowing several bright sparks at the time. He flew up the steps, nearly stumbling over his feet as they garbled voices snarling at him. On the next floor, he saw another door open and another citizen gesturing sharply.
Get in here, quick!
And Freeman was rushing through another room, up more stairs, with the Overwatch and their destruction in his wake. He burst up through a trap door and found himself in a moldering but spacious attic. He saw windows further ahead, one already open, leading outside onto the rooftops. He rushed across the creaking wood floor and dove through the opening, managing to tumble across the brittle rooftop, scraping up his arms and palms. And now he was on a giant's staircase. Rooftops of varying heights, crammed together with thick wood boards serving as ramps between them. As Gordon ran, he heard the chatter of Overwatch behind him in the attic. There was a gunshot. Gordon thought he heard a loud insect whiz past his ear. In surprise, he slid behind a brick chimney, taking cover. He breathed deep. Another bullet clipped the chimney's edge, shattering its aged mortar and leaving a small dust cloud in the air. The sky was still overcast. There were patches of blue. The wind was cold on the rooftops and the menacing tower brooded over the city. Focus, Freeman, focus. The next board was 20 feet away, straight through the soldier's line of sight. But to his left, within 10 feet, and with more chimneys in the way, was a cement ledge wrapping around the side of an apartment. It was thick enough to walk on, and it would put a building between him and the Overwatch. He bolted for it. A bullet flew past just as he swung around the corner, and he was clinging to the wall, shuffling as fast as he could along the ledge to a neighboring building. He was at least 30 feet up. The ground, far below, rocked precariously with vertigo. Gordon saw a soldier exit from a building just below him. Its back was turned to Gordon as it listened to its internal radio. Gordon shuffled, even faster. There was an open window only 10 feet away from him now. The guard turned, stared at Gordon, and drew a pistol. Gordon was 3 feet away from the window. He was aiming. He was scrambling over the windowsill. 3 shots echoed through the streets. Gordon was through the window. He collapsed into an empty attic room. His left leg felt like it had been wrapped with a baseball bat in 2 places, dull aching, and his head was dizzy.
No sweat,
Barney was saying in his memory.
You're a doctor, not a soldier. It won't really start hurting until about a minute after, as the adrenaline wears off. So get something wrapped around to apply pressure. Your shirt will do fine. Though that's all just assuming you aren't in that super hazard suit getup. Bullets don't get through that thing easy.
Freeman saw his left leg was hit in 2 places. The scrub pants spattered with blood, and the wounds looked like wormholes in a crabapple. He instinctively clutched at the surrounding skin to soothe his ringing muscles, but drew back when his warm blood began flowing. I miss that suit. I really miss that suit. Gordon was ripping his scrub shirt off and wrapping it around the wounds to stop the blood. His dark red fingerprints stained his white undershirt, while a sharp, intolerable pain began to spread through his leg into his groin and stomach. The siren continued to ring up and down the street, now joined by an artificial female voice sounding from a loudspeaker.
Attention, residents. Miscount detected in your block.
Gordon was on his feet, gripping a neglected work table for support. He limped his way towards a down staircase, glancing over dusty supplies for a gun, a wrench, a crowbar.
Cooperation with your civil protection unit will result in high privileges and rewards.
Nothing worth using, not in his condition, so he made for the staircase, trying his best to lower himself down them slowly. The wood moaned under his footfalls.
Failure to cooperate will result in permanent off-world relocation.
The wood stairs snapped under his weight. He fell 6 feet down to the next floor on a pile of shattered splinters. Through the walls he could hear the garble of several Overwatch soldiers. He seized a sharp piece of wood and tried to brace himself against the wall, limping pathetically into a neighboring hallway. Doors on either side of him broke open. There were the squid masks, white as bone. Freeman stabbed one of the officers in the neck just under the helmet. The last he saw was blood spray-painted from his hand, while a rod pressed Gordon in the small of his back. His muscles lost control.